Good day, everyone. I am Laika Imidinilia from BS Ed Science 3. We are now in the chapter 4, Evaluating the Curriculum. And now I will discuss Lesson 5.2, Curriculum Evaluation through Learning Process. But before I start, here are the learning outcomes that you should achieve after the discussion. Number 1. Understood how the curriculum can be evaluated by the assessment of learning outcomes. Number 2. Identify the levels of learning outcomes and levels of assessment. Number 3. Match the levels of learning outcomes with the appropriate assessment tools. And number 4. Interpreted the value of assessment in terms of grades assigned. Curriculum evaluation aims to examine the impact of implemented curriculum on what learning achievements so that the official curriculum can be revised if necessary and to review teaching and learning processes in the classroom. Here is the take-off for my lesson. We have gone a long way in understanding, interpreting, and applying the concept of curriculum development. We will continue to understand that curriculum can be evaluated right in the teacher's classroom. Finding out if the planned, written, implemented curriculum are functioning as intended in the assessment of learning is very crucial. How does a teacher know that the students have learned from what has been taught? Many educational practitioners agree that the measure of one's teachings is indicated by what the children have learned. The teacher cannot claim that he or she has taught if the student have not learned anything. Let us find out in this lesson that assessment of learning is an evaluation process that tells whether the intended learning outcomes through the teaching learning process have been converted into achieved learning outcomes. We will also find out that learning outcomes can be measured through the use of different assessment tools. Further, as a future teachers, you should also understand and interpret the grading system that has been derived from assessment of learning. Assessment for learning is best described as a process by which assessment information is used by teachers to adjust their teaching strategies and by students to adjust their learning. Assessment, teaching, and learning are inextricably linked as each informs the others. To improve learning outcomes, policymakers need to know what students are learning and what needs to be improved. Assessment of learning is an essential element of any education sector monitoring plan. So, as a future educators, we must understand the curriculum. Here is the content focus of my lesson. Number 1. Achieve learning outcomes. A product of what are have been intended in the beginning of learning process. Standards and competencies are used as indicators and measures of the outcomes. Learning outcomes are user-friendly statements that tell students what they will be able to do at the end of a period of time. They are measurable and quite often observable. Here is the Philippine Qualification Framework. The Philippine Qualification Framework detailing the levels from basic education to higher education in the Philippine educational system. The Philippine Qualification Framework describes the level of educational qualifications and sets the standards for qualification outcome. It is quality or qualify assured national system for development, recognition, and a world of qualification based of standard in knowledge, skills, and values acquired in different ways and methods by learners and workers of the country. PQF is divided into 8 levels, from level 1 to level 8. The first level is to be achieved by grade 12 graduates who can be awarded as National Certification 1 or NC1 if qualified by the TESDA. Note that level 2 is for NC2, level 3 is for NC3, level 4 is for NC4, level 5 will be certified by the TESDA. Other students, after graduating from high school, are unable to attend college or prepare to work immediately, so they enroll in TESDA rather than a 4-year college program. The other level of qualification progress along the educational ladder in the Philippine educational system is from grade 12 in basic education to higher education from baccalaureate to doctoral and postdoctoral levels. In all 8 levels, the individual is expected to achieve specific standards and competencies that are clustered in 3 domains. 3 domains. Here is the 3 domains that knowledge, skills, and values. Number 2, application. Number 3, degree of independence. So domains, number 1, knowledge, skills, and values. Level 1, possess foundational knowledge across learning areas with core competencies on communication, critical and creative thinking, and use of technologies. Level 2, possess foundational knowledge across range of learning areas and technical skills in chosen career tracks with advanced competencies in communication, scientific, critical, and creative thinking, and use of technology. Number 2 domain, application. Apply foundational knowledge, skills, and values in academic and real life situations through sound reasoning, informed decision making, and the judicious use of resources. Level 2, apply functional knowledge, technical skills, and values in academic and real life situations through sound reasoning, informed decision making, and the judicious use of resources. And the last domain, degree of independence. Apply skills in limited situations with close supervision, and level 2, apply skills in varied situations with minimal supervision. Here is while for the degree programs for tertiary education issued by CHED, there are also 3 levels of competency for baccalaureate, master, and doctorate degrees. Domains. Number 1, knowledge, skill, values. Broad and coherent knowledge in the field of discipline. Master's degree, broad, deep, specific knowledge in the field of discipline. Generates new knowledge skills with established values in discipline. Number 2, application. Apply in professional work. Apply in professional work and research. Doctorate degree. Apply in professional work and research as the leader or initiator. Domains 3, degree of independence. Independent or in teams. Master's degree, independent. Doctorate degree, highly independent. As mentioned earlier, the PQF is the Philippines framework, which is comparable to the 10 members countries of the ASEAN: Malaysia, Brunei, Jerusalem, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Each country's national framework shall be referred to the ASEAN Conference Qualification Framework or ARQF, wherein tool that enables comparison of qualification across ASEAN member states. It addresses education and training, knowledge process understanding or performance or KPUP. It reflects different learning outcomes that are ranged in levels of learning outcomes. Level 1, description of learning: knowledge, actual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, metacognition. Guide question for teachers: what do you want your students to know in terms of facts, in concept, procedure, and multiple thinking? Example: parts of the body. The sky is blue. How to dissect a frog, describing a typhoon from different views. Level 2, process, skills that the student use based on facts and information for making meaning and understanding. Number 2, what do you want your student to with what they know? Example: identify the parts of the frog after dissecting it. Level 3, description of learning, understanding, big ideas of concept. Number 3, what do you want student to understand? Example: how do elements of weather interact to produce climate change? Level 4, product or performance, what product or performance, visual or written, can you place in a portfolio all the evidence to show your learning outcomes? Can you create a one-act play showing the principle of dramatization? Present a research report on conservation of indigenous plants. Example: portfolio. Assessment tools for each level of learning outcomes. Knowledge, process, understanding, or KPU learning outcomes. Students who can show that they have gained knowledge can apply such knowledge and have achieved several meanings on the particular knowledge have achieved the learning outcomes. Learning outcomes are statements that describe the knowledge. Type of tests to measure knowledge, process, and understanding. Number 1, objective test. Tests that require only one correct answer. It is difficult to construct but easy to check. Number 1. Pencil and paper test. The test is written on the paper and requires a pencil to write. Letter A. Simple recall. This is the most common tool to measure knowledge. There are varieties of simple recall tests to include fill in the blanks, enumeration, identification, and simple recall. Simple recall is the easiest to construct among the objective type tests. Items appears as direct questions and applicable in mathematics and natural sciences. Another one is the alternative response test. This is the type of pencil and paper test where two options are provided. The item can be stated in question or statement. And here is the example of it. True or false? The Philippine population has reached 1 million. Has the Philippine population has reached one time? Letter C. Multiple choice test. This is the type of test identified as the most versatile test type because it can be measured a variety of learning outcome. The incomplete statements or direct question is called the stem. The list of suggested solution in word, numbers, symbols, or phrases are called alternatives, options, or choices. The correct alternative is called the answer, while the remaining option or choices are called distractors or distractors. Letter D. Matching type test. The most common matching type is made up of two parallel columns. The first column A as the premise that presents the problem and the second column B that provides the answer. Matching type test is useful in measuring the factual information as well as relationships between two things, ideas, or concepts. So here is the relationship that can be used in matching type tests. Persons, achievements, dates in historical events, in terms, definition. In principle is illustration. In parts is functions. In machines is the uses. And in diseases is the causes. So in matching type test, there are two types of it. Perfect matching type is the number of premises in column A. Here is the example. In column A are popular description of presidents during their term of office. Match them with the names of Philippine presidents in column B. So here in column A is the premise and column B is the buisit yan. Ano ko na? Imperfect matching type. Here is the example. In column A are names of well-known curriculum evaluators. Match them with the evaluation models they have been identified within column B. You can use the letter once or more than once. In column A is the premise and column B is the type test. Subjective test. Learning outcomes which indicate learning ability to originate and express idea is difficult to test. Subjective test is an assessment tool that is scored everything to personal judgment. A. Essay test. Items allow students the freedom of response. Students are free to select, relate, and present ideas in their own words. Essay tests provide a better indication of pupils' real achievement in learning. And in essay tests, there are a type of essay. 1. Restricted response item. It's like an expanded form of short answer type objective test. There is a limit on both the content. And C. Extended response item. The student is generally free to select any factual information that can help in organizing the response. The content is depend on the analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Assessment tools to measure authentic learning performance and products or KPUP. So levels 4 of the learning outcomes in KPUP can be assessed through the performance or product. These learning outcomes can be best done through the use of authentic evaluation. Authentic evaluation is a test that measures real life task performances and actual product. So here's the three performance assessment tools. Number one, checklist. Checklist is a tool that consists of a list of qualities that can be observed as present or absent. 2. Rating scale is a tool that uses a scale in a number line as a basis to estimate the numerical value of a performance of a product. The value is easier to score if the points are in whole numbers. The most popular are Likert scale. Example, in rating scale for a science project. Rating scale is the allow teachers to indicate the degree or frequency at the behaviors, skills, and strategies displayed by the learner. Number 3. Rubrics for portfolio is a compilation of the experience as authentic learning outcomes presented with evidences and reflections. To assess the total learning experiences as presented in a holistic package, an assessment tool called a rubric is called portfolio. Rubrics for portfolio is used to clarify the student's qualities work should have, and often express the terms of students. Here is the suggested rubric for science. Levels of assessment for the learner's level of learning outcomes. Levels of assessment is also the description of the levels of the learning outcomes, which are knowledge, process, or skills, understanding, and products or performance. Through the DepEd Order 73 series 2012, levels of learning outcomes are also the level of assessment. In other words, the level of assessment follow also the level of thinking skills from lower level to higher level. Here's the level of assessment. Outcomes or assessment. Level 1. Knowledge. What to assess. Who, what, when, how, why. Type of assessment. Pencil and paper, non-paper and pencil. Percentage value 15%. Level 2. Process or skill. Constructed meaning from knowledge. Type of assessment. Pencil and paper, non-paper and pencil. 25%. Level 3. Understanding. Explanations, interpretation, application. Type of assessment. Pencil and paper. Percentage 30%. Level 4. Product, performance, transfer, understanding to life situation as the product or performance. Type of assessment. Checklists and rating scale. And the percent is all in all to 100%. Use of levels of assessment in the classroom for a summative test. Illustrative example for a summative test or third grading period in elementary science grade 6. So here is the example of sample of table of specification matrix for a periodical test for third quarter. Assessment level. Knowledge. Tools. Objective test. Highest score 25. Weights is 15%. Process. Objective test 25. Weight is 25%. Understanding. Objective test or essay. Highest score 30. Weight is 30%. Product. Tools is rubrics rating scale. Highest score is 20. 30%. Sample matrix of a periodical summative test result in the third quarter. Assessment level. Knowledge. Tools is objective test. Highest possible score is 25. Scores earned is 25. Percent weight is 15% and percent value of score is 15.00. Process. Objective test. 25. Scores earned 20. Percent weight 25% and value of score is 24.00. Understanding, objective or essay, highest possible score, 30. Scores, 26, 30%, and 25.99 value of the score. Product, performance or product test, 20. Scores earned is also 20. Percent weight is 30%, 30.00. And total for highest possible score is 100 points and scores earned is 91 points. All in all 100%, and his percent value of the score is 94.99%, which is the component score. Levels of proficiency description. The interpretation is used for all the learning areas or subjects in basic education. Levels of proficiency of description and composite score in summative grade in percent. Beginning 74 and below, developing 75 to 79, approaching proficiency 80 to 84, proficient 85 to 89, advanced is 90 and to 95. When used as a tool for formative assessment, the teacher will be guided by the level of proficiency of each learner. Thus, remediation can be immediately done before going to next school quarter or school level. Using Anna's component score of 94.9% means that her level of proficiency is advanced. Here's the take action for my lesson. Activity 1. Giving an example. 1. Giving two test items that are appropriate for each level of learning outcomes. You can choose the type of test. A. Knowledge. B. Process. And C. Understanding. And activity 2. Ask a teacher. Interview a teacher in basic education about how they assess learning. And number 2. Request some assessment tools. Here is the example of my in Activity 1. Subject Science. Topic Greenhouse Effect and Global Warming. Introduction to Climate Change. The test I use in knowledge is enumeration and multiple choice. 1. Name the responsible gases that are present in greenhouse effect. 2. It is the gradual increase in the overall temperature of Earth's atmosphere. A. Global warming. B. Greenhouse effect. C. Carbon dioxide. D. Oxygen. In process, explain the major outcomes of greenhouse effect and how it harmed the earth. 2. Illustrate the impact of greenhouse effect in our environment. While in understanding, essay is I use in assessment test. Activity 2 in take action. So I have interviewed a teacher and here is the answer of here the in my interview. This time of crisis along educational system, I assess student learning through summative tests 1 to 5, 20 items every 2 weeks. So for first quarter, I have 4 assessment. I also use both direct and indirect. Direct measures include quizzes, essays, research project, case study analysis, especially in personal development and rubrics for other performances. This is the option where students send me a video, pictures, or illustration as per their conveniences and accessibility. So here is the example of the teacher essay. Self-check and self-reflect of my lesson. Self-check. 1. What are the level of learning outcomes? Number 2. What are the level of assessment? Number 3. What are the level of proficiency? And number 4. What are the assessment tools used to measure learning outcomes? And self-reflect. Does the result of a periodical test reflect evaluation of a curriculum and why? So that's all for this lesson. I hope you all learned something. Once again, I am Laika Imidinilia from BS Ed Science 3, your reporter for today's lesson. Thank you and keep safe.